welcome to tonight's installment of Thursday with Jamila. I hope you guys are ready for what I think is going to be a pretty timely chat. Um, so do me a favor, as I always ask, make sure you like and share the video. And if you guys are not subscribed, I currently have a YouTube channel. I probably don't promote it enough, so you probably didn't know that it existed, but it is totally there. And it can be found under Brunch of Girls. And all of our current our archives, I can't get my words out, our archive videos are there. So you guys could totally check out some of the episodes that maybe you didn't get to see. And I want to hear your thoughts. We'll only know that the content is landing or that it is meaningful when we get your feedback. So do me a favor, come in, say hello, like, and share this post. I'm so happy to see you guys. Today has been rather interesting, so I typically know what that means. So let's get started. The song you hear playing is the instrumental for Who You Say I Am. And I really feel like that is the anthem for tonight's episode because a lot of us are subscribing to an illustration of a version of ourselves that we didn't create unbeknownst to us. And the only way that we combat that is with saying the truth of what was actually written concerning us. But that can be a bit of a challenge if you are not a student of the word. So tonight, I just want to have a conversation with you all because it is important that we recognize who we are, and that is how we're going to get over the hump of what I call and what is truly defined as imposter syndrome. So let's go ahead and get started. Um, I'm glad to see you all. Before we jump into the topic, I want to remind you all, if you didn't know, or educate you all, that May is considered Mental Health Awareness Month. And as a mental health advocate and a student of psychology, I think it is important for us to ensure that we are doing the work to ensure that our mental well being is maintained. A lot of us just go through life and we just muscle through things and we don't deal with some of the underlying issues that could be triggers or actually influencing a lot of our external responses. And so, if you do not already visit frequently with a licensed counselor or a therapist or a psychiatrist, I encourage you to do so. There's so many resources out there, especially considering the climate of the pandemic. I know a lot of us have probably just considered this a new normal and we're not really taking into account how being quarantined has really had an impact on our mental well being. And the numbers are a bit staggering, you guys. 99% of the people who took the assessment on mentalhealth.org all said that they were experiencing a form of anxiety, that it was triggering emotional responses in them that they had not experienced previously. So it is not prejudice. Mental health is not prejudice. It is something that can knock on everyone's door. Matter of fact, it is noted that 1 in 5 people will experience mental health in their lifetime, mental health illness. I'm sorry, in their lifetime, and it's something that we really got to consider. Contessa, I may give you some for Mother's Day. Remind me. Um, so I really want us to do the work to ensure that we are minding our mind. Some of the other numbers that I want to, oh, y'all are almost into the live. See, the devil is busy. He is really trying my nerves today. I almost hung up on the people on Facebook, Instagram. Jesus, help us today. So listen, during the pandemic, it said that it's had critical impacts on our mental health from all ages. That's the other part that I really wanted to point out. A lot of times when we think about mental illness or any type of emotional trauma, we tend to always default to the adults that may be experiencing it. We're not taking into consideration the children. And if you think about it, or if you have had a child that has had to go through this learning curve of the 2020-2021 school year, you already know what I'm about to say. But our kids have gone through the ringers, and they have not let up with the requirements. So our kids have gone back and forth between virtual and in person, and then they're still required to take the state mandated tests and things like that. Some kids are still learning how to write, and now they've got to learn how to use computers, not to just play games, but to actually submit assignments. And so they've been disconnected from their friends. They've not been able to socialize. All of that's having an impact on their social development, which is a critical skill in order to become a well-rounded individual. So don't just assume that when we talk about tonight's topic that it's only affecting adults. It is something that is being experienced at all age levels. It's not specific to gender. It's not specific to cultural background. It's not specific to ethnicity. It is in love with humanity. So mental health and mental health awareness are definitely things that we all need to be taking very seriously, and it is a perfect segue into tonight's topic where I am discussing the need to get out of your way. And the subtopic is overcoming imposter syndrome. So many of us are the key reason why we have not seen the results that we desire, myself included. So many of us feel that we have happened upon situations, stumbled into environments, casually sat at certain tables just for the sake of or by sheer luck. None of that is true. And so I want to start by affirming you, and then I want to get into the meat of tonight's topic because I don't think it would be beneficial to just talk about what it is without really talking to you first. So hear me and hear me well. Everything that you are, everything that you're becoming, and everything that was already prescripted concerning you is enough. Okay? Everything concerning you is enough. Okay? You were created with a very specific idea of what your imprint in this world would be. And the opportunities that you have been afforded are not by luck and it is not by chance. The achievements that you have accomplished are not by sheer luck or by chance. They are a direct result of the work that you put in. They are a direct result of your discipline and your diligence. It is not because your last name is X or because your gender is Y. It is because everything that was uniquely fashioned for you is beginning to manifest. And so I was talking to I like to call them my neighborhood aunties, but I was talking to a lady here in my neighborhood, and she has this very interesting way in which she talks to people about Christ, which I kind of chuckle at because she's hilarious in that way. But she says she always tells people, God ain't writing nothing else. He has written everything that he is gonna say, and he has closed the book. He is sitting at the right hand of God. And I chuckled at it a little bit, but then I dug into kind of what I felt like she was saying. And the way I interpreted that was everything concerning me has already been prescripted, and the same rings true for you. So when things happen, you are coming into the knowledge of what was already written concerning you. So you are never an imposter in your own story unless you are subscribing to an illustration of yourself that was not scripted by the master author, i.e., our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. Okay? If you're new to Thursday with Jamila, yes, I am a Christian. Yes, I love the Lord with all of my heart, and you will hear me say Jesus. You won't hear me subscribe to him as the universe. The universe is what he created, and the universe even has to bow at him. Okay? So Jesus Christ, our Lord and Savior, has prescripted everything concerning you. So stop downplaying how dope you are. Stop minimizing how great you are. Do not get comfortable not acknowledging the fruit of your labor. I talked about this at the last broadcast. I'm bringing it back up because I know for a fact many of us are not seeing the desired outcomes we are not seeing the desired outcomes concerning who we are because we don't believe the truth concerning us. And so let's go into it. All right. So I'm going to pull up some stats here because I think it's important to lay the foundation so that we have context when we go into tonight's topic. If you hear the pitter pattering around, it is my dog. He is getting old, you guys, and he has to be close to me. So I apologize in advance if you guys hear Jaden because he's doing the most right now. Okay. So listen, and the imposter phenomenon is a term that was used to deal with be considered intellectual phoniness that appeared to be particularly prevalent with women who are considered to be high achieving. Okay. Suzanne Imes and Rose Clance are psychologists who put words to what we now call the imposter syndrome. The timing in which they did this is important. They wrote it in 1978. Let me give you some prefix, okay? During the 1970s, women only made up 37.97% of the US labor force. Why does that matter? It matters because these people, women who were going into the labor force and taking on roles that were not traditionally set aside for them, were automatically claimed to be high achieving simply because they left the societal role of being a housewife and going into the workforce, okay? And let me be clear, a lot of what they were doing was not in management. They were support staff, they were your administrators, they were your secretaries. A lot of what you see in churches today, where you see a lot of women in the ministry of helps but not walking in leadership roles because of suppression. Well, that's another topic for another day. But what you see is women going into roles that they customarily were not deemed to be worthy of, and so now they're considered to be high achieving. Why does that matter? Because the definition has typically been associated with high achieving women. They have since come back and said, well, we understand that imposter syndrome is really a widespread thing and it's not relative to just women. However, the term says it is this idea that you've only succeeded due to luck and not because of your talent and your qualifications. It is walking in this constant feeling that you're going to be found out, which is hilarious to me, but it is something that so many of us do, myself included. Okay, like I have had moments where I feel like I did something really well. I feel like it landed. And then I walk away from it feeling completely inadequate and incapable and feeling like I just wasted the time of anyone who subscribed to what I just delivered. I think we've all been there at some point in time. And so then we're walking around feeling like at any point in time, they're going to disqualify me for something that I know I've been diligent in preparing and in the role that I have worked and proved that I am more than qualified for. But for some reason, I just keep feeling at any given moment I'm going to be found out. Stop it. I'm saying that to you because I need you to get real clear and fall back in love with all you are. Because all you are is the reason you have the opportunities that you have. And every time you decide that I'm going to be found out at any given moment and you freeze, and all of a sudden you get this apprehension to even try, you miss out on opportunities that were tailor made for you. So many of us have missed opportunities because we've talked ourselves out of it because, well, I'm not good enough. They won't call my name. They won't consider me. When you are actually the person they've been waiting to show up all along. You are not an imposter. You were uniquely designed and fashioned to leave an imprint in this world. And every day, I said this quote to a really good friend of mine a while ago, and she brought it back to my remembrance, and it was a kick in the teeth because I wasn't even living out the words that I said. And listen, I said this to her. I said, every day that you live beneath your potential is a day wasted. So every day that you live feeling like you are a fraud when you are actually more than qualified to do that which you do every single day is a day wasted. Listen, you are not the sum total of your output. I think I told you guys this a while ago. You are not the sum total of your output. You are not. What you do is a byproduct of who you are. Okay. So I was listening to a podcast today and it was really hitting home for me. And I was just like, why do we do this? Why are we like this? But a lot of us feel sometimes that, you just went there and I was actually about to talk about that, about the mask we wear. and talking about how it's easier to go to a masquerade because I can hide behind the mask that I wore because this is the version of myself that I want to present to you. I'm sending my representation to the table because something within me feels inadequate to just show up in my truth. Okay, and so we put on these masks and we walk around in a false representation of who we are in hopes of gaining acceptance. Do we realize that when we gain the acceptance of something that we are not, we have never actually gained acceptance? We've been tolerated, or a version of us has become tolerable. And the moment that that mask cracks and the real you shows up, then there is a potential for rejection because you may have watered down your truth to babies who can only eat or drink milk. But when you show up as the whole meal and their stomachs don't know how to tolerate that, then you become rejected. So you gotta listen. We are not showing up as appetizers in this season. We are not showing up as the water. We are showing up in the totality of the meal that we are. And either you gonna eat of me or you are not. But I am not going to be your milk. Okay? I'm not. I'm not going to be your milk. I'm not. I am going to be the entire meal that I am prepared to be, and either you can eat this meat or you cannot. And that's okay. But what I'm not going to do is continue to live in this falsehood and miss out on everything that was determined for me to receive in this lifetime. Listen, whole main course, Kiana, do you understand? Like, and either you have the monies to pay for this meal or you don't, and they might not have the budget for it. And when I say money and I talk about budget, I'm not necessarily only talking about a financial thing, but honestly, listen, sometimes people do not have the resources that require your presence. And when I say resources, I just said it and I want to say it again because I don't want my words to be twisted and then represented in falsehoods. I'm not talking solely about money, but some people don't have the relational intelligence, the emotional intelligence, they don't have the acumen to house who you are. Okay? And you've got to realize you are that dope. You got to realize that you are that one and you don't fit into what they have at the moment, okay? But you could still leave a crumb on the table. You could still leave a piece of who you are by simply just being, right? Because you can make a lasting impression with choosing to be kind instead of being nasty. You can make a lasting impression by speaking instead of avoiding. There's still a way to leave an imprint, but you've got to be cognizant to not be all of what they cannot handle. It doesn't make sense. And so please take the mask off because they're cracking. We see the cracks in it. We know that's not who you are because what happens is you get agitated with this reduced version of you. And so it starts to come out in some of your conversations and how you show up and your posture and your nonverbal cues. But they're saying, well, this is who you say you are, but you seem to be so annoyed when I handle you according to who you say you are. But listen, the enemy loves for us to walk in a false identity. He loves for us to subscribe to the imposter because he knows the blessings only show up for their designated person. And if you're not walking in the truth of that, then the blessings go on by. Okay, so back to why I am talking about imposter syndrome and I'm talking about the era in which it originated. Okay, so Norma Ruffino says that women changed the workforce in the 1970s, and the reasons why they changed it was because a single a single income could no longer comfortably support what was considered to be a single or middle class lifestyle. Okay, why does that matter, Jamila? Let me make it sense. Just hold on for a minute, okay? It wasn't necessarily that more opportunities had opened up for women in the workforce, but there was an economic need that forced them out of societal roles. That was in the 1970s, okay? It wasn't a matter of there being more opportunities available, but there was an economic need that required them to come out of what they had been previously identified of to meet a need. That's one thing. I'm going to come back to it. I'm going to talk to it. Affirmative action forced people to experience women and minorities in roles that they thought they would never be good at, and it changed the culture indefinitely. Jamila, that was in 1978. What in the world does that have to do with 2021? All right, cool. 2020 caused a shift in the entire economic system, the way we do business as a whole, the way we parent, the way we educate, the way we worship, everything concerning who we are was shifted in 2020. We have come up on the anniversary of that shift, have we not? Okay, and a lot of businesses, churches, educational institutes, whatever, any type of business that requires a presence of a customer has changed, and people have had to come out of roles that they were comfortable with, and they've had to learn how to adapt, they've had to learn how to expand, they had to learn how to innovate, and only those who were willing to come out of what they were comfortable with were able to stay afloat and in most cases forge ahead. I am saying that to you because I want to know, was there a point in this shifting that you decided to be an imposter? Or did you actually show up for the game? Did you show up and dig deep enough to realize, you know what, there is something in me that actually aligns with this new model, and if I would just believe in me enough and do what I need to do, first believing that I'm capable of, I can forge ahead. So many people missed the doggone boat because they did not believe that they were worthy enough. They did not believe that they were qualified enough. They felt it was so much easier to fly under the radar and let somebody else carry the weight of what would be considered the new normal going forward. Who knows how long the effects of what has been considered the new normal will be in place? Did you make a contribution? Oh, wait. Because this was a key time to make a contribution into how things were going to be done going forward. Did you just subscribe to what they said? Because this was a time in the 1978, what the women had to do, because there was no other choice, shifted the culture, and it caused people to have to acknowledge them as more than capable to do things that they never thought that they could be good at. So I just want to know, what did you do? Did you sit on it? Did you get comfortable? Did you just gain your COVID-19? Did you find a new food that you want to snack on all day? Did you read a book? Like, what did you do? And I'm not bashing, so don't take it that way. What I want to know is, did you become idle, or did you become an implementer? Did you become a forerunner, or will you just be riding the wave of what somebody else initiated that's going to impact you for years to come? I want to know, because I can tell you, those of us who were blinded by our insecurities and led by our fears missed the boat. Maybe. Because maybe, or just maybe, I'm here to be a clarion call to say, wake up, stand fully and all of who you are, because if you will catch what I'm telling you today, there's still time for you. Possibly. I know who I am. And so at this point, I'm going to stand in the truth of it, because I can't get caught with the words in the back of my throat another day because I was blinded by insecurity and led by fear. I understand it now. And although it may be a role, an industry, or a marketplace that maybe we hadn't been deemed good enough to participate in before, we are about to shift the culture yet again. But it starts first with a clear understanding of who you are. All right, so why was I playing that song when we first came on? I was playing that song because identities are not formed in isolation. So let's get clear on that, okay? A lot of us believe that, we're the sum total of what we kept a hold of from our upbringing. And that's not the case. Yes, our parents, our tribe, our family members lay a very solid foundation when it comes to shaping your identity. Yes, but even their scope of your identity is limited because they're not sovereign. Okay? So it is not to say that mom and dad were incapable, auntie, uncle, grandma, cousin, sister, brother were incapable, but they are human. And so, in their limited scope, they shaped you based on what they thought was best for you, and they helped you to subscribe to things that you showed a natural interest in, and they were hoping to build structure around those things because that's what it seemed like you'd be good at, right? And then you went to school. And then when you went to school, you were shaped then by the educational system, which is full of biases. Let it be known. So parents, don't just send your children to school and say, well, this is what they're teaching them and this is what it is. You better ask all the questions. I'm telling you right now, AJ's teachers get weekly emails from me. I want to know what you're talking about. I want to know the context of what you are delivering it because I need to know what I need to reshape when that baby gets home because I am raising a black man in America and he has to be taught some truths that y'all not gonna tell him. All right, all right. So you then walk into educational systems. You are shaped by what they deem to be the true concerning scenarios, which we all know are skewed at times. And if you are of any type of religious background, then you are going to your house of worship, where they are then giving you the structure according to how they've interpreted the scripture or whatever. And then you have that. And then you have influences that come from your friends because now how they do it in their house probably differs from how you do it. So then you get exposed to some of that. And then if you're well traveled, you go to other parts of the world. And so now your identity is fully being shaped. It's being influenced. There's so much at play because of what you've been exposed to. And then at some point in your life, you decide, okay, based on all that I've taken in from the external, I'm going to subscribe to X and I'm going to walk in the truth of Y. Okay, that's typically how it happens. But I want to have a conversation with you about the mind because again, this is Mental Health Awareness Month. There is a very big difference between your subconscious mind and your conscious mind, and most people believe that they are guided by their conscious mind, and that is incorrect. Your subconscious mind is driving the ship. So a lot of that has to do with that information that was given to you in your formative years that you didn't even really think was probably going to have a lasting impression upon you. But what is built in those formative years and the foundation is what you naturally default to, whether you pay attention to it or not. So by the time your conscious mind decides to catch up, your subconscious mind has already put things in motion. Jamila, why does that matter when it comes to the imposter syndrome? Because when you have not been exposed to something greater than your environment, it is very hard for you to subscribe to something different. So if you've never seen it done that way, i.e., the women who were joining the workforce, they don't know how to do it. They think they showed up by sheer luck. They've accomplished because someone patted them on the back or liked them, and they don't ascribe to the effort that they put in it. So listen, if you are in an environment that doesn't show you anything different, or in an environment that doesn't align with who you know you have been cultivated, groomed, or called to be, it's going to be very challenging to walk in that identity. So you walk around as an imposter. Okay? In this season, I want you to mind your mind. Really, I want you to get very, very, very disciplined about that. If you could do that through the end of this month, I think it would be really, really, really beneficial to you going forward into the latter 6 months of this year. Okay? So let's mind our mind. Let's be cognizant of our environments, because a lot of people are getting back out and they're moving and they're shaking, they're catching flights, they're, international, they're moving. The pandemic, they don't feel is much of a thing to be concerned about, so they're moving and shaking. And you're going back out into these environments. But what I would ask you is, while you were unable to operate in the spaces that you had found most of your comfort in, what did you learn about the space that you really were called to dwell in? Because I mean, if we think about our homes, we they should be homes, but most of us didn't even spend much time in our home. Like, we didn't even know how to enjoy the space that we have been blessed with. We didn't know how to honor God by thanking Him for the homes that we have been allowed to live in or acquire or whatever. So, in the spaces that you have created for yourself, what did you find out about yourself? And did you find out something new and then kind of doubt it because you'd never developed that part of you, or you didn't really think that that was something that would matter in the long run, so you put it on the back burner? I want us to really think about that in this season of our lives, okay? Because we're in a season where we really could shift the culture. We really could. Like, if we showed up for real as who we are, we could shift the culture. Because being me doesn't require me to keep up with a lie. Being me does not require me to carve out certain versions to make other people comfortable. It doesn't cause, I don't have to skim it down. I don't have to clean it up. Now, we are cognizant, because if we're going to be influencers, one has to be wise. So you got to honor the space that you're in. And I'm not saying just wow out and be a complete fool. No, but I am saying walking in truth and authenticity, which I feel like has become a buzzword. So most people are like, they on that authenticity stuff. But really, it is the heart of how we overcome imposter syndrome. But we can't get to the core of that until we wipe the slate clean of all the lies that we have been living. Like, we are walking around as absolute hypocrites because we don't feel like society is going to acknowledge, accept who we are. Like, what? Let me tell you something. I do not have time, and neither do you. We don't have time. Like, we don't have time. We have the opportunity to say, hello, allow me to reintroduce myself. My name is. Oh, okay, that was my song back in the day. But I'm just saying, can I reintroduce myself? Listen, I know I had showed up for all those years as X, and I really cannot continue to shoulder the weight of that false identity. And I would like to introduce you to the truth of who I am. And I completely understand if that's not something that you feel fits into your scope or your space. I understand that. I apologize for being a falsie, but I want to be real. I want to be truthfully who I am. I want to be open to the opportunities that are uniquely fashioned for me. And you guys, it's not going to happen overnight, especially if we've walked in that space for a really long time. Okay? And so I am not saying you're going to wake up tomorrow and just be like, hey, I'm here and I love it. It's going to take some time. But just because it's going to take some time doesn't mean that we get to drop the ball again and miss the boat. Like, why would we do it a second time when we've been given an opportunity to do it right again? Like, give yourself grace. Feel what you feel. And then I would ask you to do me a really huge favor when it comes to the journal prompt. One of the things that I legitimately want you to ask yourself is, why didn't I feel like the truth of who I was good? Why didn't I feel like that was good enough? Like, why didn't I feel validated enough to just be me? Was it an external influence? Was it an internal influence? Was it that I just wasn't exposed to something that could have maybe propelled me further? Was I holding on to doubt? Was I allowing past failures to create false narratives about what would happen to me going forward? The other part that I really want you to understand when it comes to imposter syndrome and working to overcome it, you've got to know that your best days are before you. And that you don't have to be so desperate in your need for more that you take whatever is offered. Because I know that I've been in positions where I felt like, you know what, if I don't take this opportunity, I won't get another one. And that's because I was being self reliant instead of seeking ye first the kingdom of heaven and its righteousness, instead of going to the sovereign one and asking him to guide my conversation, guide my meditations, put me in the spaces that I need to be in so that I can live the life that you promised. When I stopped doing that and was being self-reliant, I felt like whatever opportunity was coming my way was going to be the best that it was ever going to be, and that's an absolute lie. And so you can't do that, because that's what's going to cause you to be stifled, and that's going to keep you stuck in the space that's not going to be able to undergird the fullness of you. And so don't allow it to be the same going forward. You are not an imposter if you choose to take off the mask. If you choose to acknowledge that when he created you and he said it was good, that he was talking about you too. If you'll acknowledge that when he said greater works shall you do, that he was referring to you. If you acknowledge that when he said that you were fearfully and wonderfully made, that he was talking about you. If you would acknowledge that when he said he that has begun a good work in you shall perform it until the day of Jesus Christ, that he was talking about you. If you will acknowledge that when he said my word will not return unto me void, but it shall accomplish wherein it was sent, that he was speaking about your purpose. If you would acknowledge that he said that he has compassion for you, and that he would never drop you, and he would not be as a mother who was nursing her babe. Why? Because he has you tattooed in the palm of his hand. You are that near and dear to him. You want to know how I can say that? Because I got in the word and I started bathing in the truth so that I could shed the weight of the lies that had been placed on me by society, by myself, by people that I thought were close to me, until I was able to wash myself and bathe myself in the truth. It was hard to not walk as an imposter, but I tell you, it's the most freeing thing that you can do. It is the thing you must do in this season, because what's on the other side of it is really going to be contingent upon what you decide to do next. Are you going to be truthfully you? Or are you going to keep up the act? I mean, really, we've got the choices. And that's why he gives us free will, okay? So, yes, there are things that can be bestowed upon us, but if we choose the wrong thing, then we have to eat. We got to eat it. Whatever we choose, we've got to eat it, okay? So, listen, I am in a season of saturating my thoughts with his truth. And you gotta do that, you guys. You gotta know what the book says. You got to. I've said it probably 5 times so far. I'm gonna say it one more time. You are currently walking around as an illustration of someone else when you decide to be an imposter. I'm gonna give you the journal prompt again. What I want you to do concerning the journal prompt. I love the fact that you guys know you got work after you talk to me. This makes me feel so great. I'm going to do it. All right, so listen, because there's a thing that comes with the journal that I need to do, because I hadn't done it, but I'm on my way up, y'all. I'm coming back. Listen, tonight, at the top of your journal, I want you to write overcoming imposter syndrome. And then I want you to ask yourself, what about my journey made me feel unworthy and caused me to default to a representation of myself? Okay, it's very long, but I just want you to think about that. Like, why did you feel unworthy? What about you made you feel like you weren't qualified enough to just show up as yourself? I don't care how you write it out, but I would like to see you guys look at that in a couple categories. I want to know, what about your purpose felt too much for you, like the shoes were too tall for you to fill? What about your relationships caused you to be an imposter? Why aren't you walking fully in your career field? Okay, so I'm talking about purpose. I want to talk about relationships, and I want to talk about profession. Do you show up for real in those categories? If not, why not? And legit have some hard conversations with yourself about it. Because if those portions of you are not authentically lived through, you're never going to reap the fruit of what your purpose has for you while on the earth. Okay? If you can't show up as a truth of you relationally, it might be time to be like, all right, I love you. I think you're a great person, but this is just not the relationship that's conducive for who I'm becoming. It's okay. It's okay to say that. And it's not to say that they're any less than. It's just to say I'm not that anymore. It's fine. Okay. Professionally, have you done the work, got your degree, done the stuff that you were supposed to be doing, and then still didn't go after the job that you were qualified for? I just want to know. I just want to know. Why? Why aren't you going after it? Why are you still selling yourself short? Who, you're saying there's another candidate that's more qualified than me. Are you on the interview board? Are you reviewing the incoming resumes and applications? Probably not. So put yours in the hat. You never know. All a person can ever say is no. And if they say no, that's fine. Just go to the next opportunity. I save purpose for last, even though that's the first thing I want you to write about, because it takes a little longer to explain. Because purpose is such a widely used word, and I find that sometimes it's just not clearly defined until people are like, okay, y'all are always talking about purpose, but like, what does that mean? Simply put, the reason you were created. Your purpose is the reason you were created. Okay? In order to know why you were created, you need to understand the problem that you've been called to be an answer to. Okay? And so when you become the answer to the problem that you were created for, you realize that it shows up in a myriad of ways. Okay? It's not always tied to one particular audience or one particular setting or even one particular group of people. It's not. Typically, purpose manifests itself in everyday conversations. It manifests itself in just how you conduct your life. It manifests in your meditation, how you process things, the way in which you think about the world around you, the things that you have a deep compassion for, the things that burden you. Purpose shows up through those portals. And it's not just about fulfilling something, it is about being fulfilled, because purpose should fulfill you first before it ever fulfills anyone else. If it's not fulfilling you, it's probably not purposeful. Okay? So let's do that. Let's do the work and figure out, am I showing up authentically in these categories? Or if I mastered being such a great actor or actress, have I, racked up on all the masks so that I can be palatable for people? And if so, why? What made you doubt you? Like, what reason do you have to not be you? Because being you makes you win every single time. So what is it? Let's get to the heart of it. We got to get to the heart of it. And in honor of Mental Health Awareness Month, I really want you to I really want you to meditate on it. And I want you to fall in love with you again. Because when you're in love with something, man, the way you treat it, the way you care for it, the way you talk about it is very different. When you love you and you are in love with you, you speak of yourself in a way that shows it, it embodies it, like it comes through your pores. And people are like, you know what? There's something infectious about you. I want to be around that energy. I want to be around that aura. There's something about you that makes me feel like I could be a better person just because of the way that you love you. You never know the lives that you're touching, whether they come back and say it or not. And I'm learning, you gotta say it and stop waiting to find out if they accepted it or not. I heard something and then I'm gonna go. I heard something maybe a couple weeks ago, and it was one of the influencers that I listened to, and they were saying, so many people doubt their level of effectiveness because they don't see a real time response from people. And the real fruit of your seed is always delayed, and it tends to show up more in how they shift their life based on what you said. And so it's not the claps really that we should be looking for. Did what I say, did what I contribute cause them to shift in a more productive way? And that is something that you're going to see over time. So trust that you are making the impression that you're supposed to when you're walking in your truth. And that's all this world requires of you. I love you guys so, so very much. Thank you guys for tuning in. Have a good day. Bye.